Hello everyone. Let's try to get in Al. Boa noite. Tricky Lima. How are you guys? Boa noite, Ricardo. How are you? Sales by Nicholas. Dan Smiths collects. Vicky Sports, Viking Cards. Andre Santos. How are you guys? How are you, Andre? Champ Vanderford. Can we see the Mega Crack CR7 137 collection? Maybe soon. Soon we will see it. I'll show you guys. All right. Here's Al Nober. All right, Al. Let's see. Elrey. Let's do it one more time. Invite. Sorry, this is last minute. Oh, it says Elrey Collection is unable to join. Al, I don't know if you can hear me, if you're on here, but if you are, you could always request to join, because for whatever reason, by me inviting you, it says that you're unable. I'll do another invite. So take that. How are you, ATX? Collectibles? It'll be interesting to see what how Al how his beard is shaping up, because mine, it's not well on display at this point. I'll be shaving soon. All right. Al, if you can hear me, you can request to join. Oh, there you go. All right, so you joined. So now, let's see. Invite. Accept. All right, so we should be having Al in the next minute or so. It says Elrey Collection is unable to join. I wonder why. Let me exit out of Instagram on my phone. Hermandine Freitas, how are you? João Souza, Uncommon Curator. All right, let me try one last time. Accept. You guys can hear me fine. Al, how are you?
Oh, there you are, man. Okay, good.
How's everything?
Good. How are things with you?
Hey, hanging in there. I know you say that you just got off from work. You missed the games. I mean, Liverpool did okay.
It was 2-0. I saw that Salah scored, so that's always good for the
Hawks. It was a deflection, but nonetheless, I think he got credit there. Yeah, I got credit with the goal. So the first one was pretty nice by Firmino. But anyway, thanks for taking this. During the last couple of days, I've been trying to get Al because I want to get your input on the big sale. And as a matter of fact, this was one of your predictions, right? For this year. Yeah, it said. I mean, for sure, I think you must agree that this came a little early into the year. I mean, I expected maybe May at the earliest, but
yeah.
And do you know exactly what happened? Because originally, as you know, it was supposed to have been a 1.1 million bid from somebody that we both know. As it turns out, someone else heard about it and basically took over.
They topped it up. I mean, I did make this prediction in January that this card would sell for more than $1 million, and I thought this was the leading candidate to do it, just because. It's Pele. There's only 6 of them in PSA 9. It's a card, so it's this. The Alifa has really kind of consolidated its hold on the one of the preferred rookies, certainly probably the most preferred one, for a number of factors. Number one, it's actually cardboard, right? Number two, there's no questions on the dates like there are on the Queagle and
absolutely
issued, in Sweden. Number three, while there's 100 copies graded at PSA and another handful at SGC, it trades a lot, so that liquidity gives some certainty about pricing, so it's easier to understand. And it is an attractive, color issue, right? You could say the Bremer Pele cards, which are black and white, are really nice, but they're in action. So, it's not a huge surprise that this ended up being a preferred card, and it also comes in high grade, which not a lot of Pele cards do, and card collectors, especially US-based ones, want high grades. It matters to them, those grades. So, I actually thought that there was a decent chance it didn't happen this year, and if it did, it would happen late in the year. But, and I've been adding to my position in the rally. I know a lot of people from overseas, they can't.
I did too, a little bit, a couple of months back. So
yeah, so I my position, and I owned 20% of the PSA 9. So yes, I have been adding for that card for a year just because I believe that it was a good investment, right? I mean, most people know that I collect mostly as a collector, and that's really my primary focus. But this was just a very clear, to me, that this card was just going to be huge at some point. Anyway, long story short, I actually still even voted no. I'm a big block of no voters.
You voted no even after it went up to 1.33.
Yep, and not necessarily because I don't think 1.33 is a great price, right? I do think in this market it's a very strong price and it's a fair price. What I didn't believe, or for me in particular, is like, hey, I get this payout, number one, because of the U.S. tax code. Some of this is going to be, ordinary income gains, which gets taxed, here at 40%. And fundamentally, I also didn't. I don't know where would I put this money into? What else that I'd feel just as good about as a piece of a PSA 9 Pele? And the real answer to that is, nothing. So I would have rather had kept a partial piece of this epic card. But I do think obviously it's a fair price, and having $1 million card. I mean, you mentioned this on the Discord. $1 million soccer card is huge for the hobby. Kind of like what
right now it is.
Yep. Yeah. Especially like when you were talking about the Cristiano Ronaldo sale in Portugal getting some press, to have ESPN talking about soccer cards is huge in a World Cup year. And so I think that all of this, I think it's all net very positive. I think there is this bifurcation of the market though, in the ultra high end, where you've got, really wealthy, high net worth people playing, and, what I'll call the rest of us that can't go out and buy all these cards. And that's still a little soft down here, in especially the Messi market, which is another thing that I talked about. So, I'm excited to see that sale, even though, I wish we wouldn't have sold it from a personal perspective, but from a market perspective, I thought that was.
You understood. Yeah, because I did see on the Discord that you mentioned also the tax implications of the sale and so on. And that's something, to tell you the truth, I hadn't really thought about, only because I was going to put the money back into something else. I was thinking about, there's a Mega Cracks, as you know, PSA 10 on it. But I've been trying to buy it, and I haven't been able to get it at a dollars per share price that I really have in mind.
Right.
But I do feel, and again, like I mentioned on Discord, that this might be what we need to get over the hump at this point, because things seem to be very stagnant. But it's funny that it's great that we can. You did say you had mixed feelings about it, right? And now you explain a little more in details. But it's great that we're able to have partial shares on these and still have different opinions. And I guess ultimately the majority spoke. And we don't even know the percentage of the yes votes at this point, right?
No, I think they did.
They did?
Yeah, I think they hear. I'll try to look it up. But yeah, I think it was like 67% said yes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty high.
On a weighted basis, 57% said yes.
Okay.
So obviously, if you took me out of that category, it's overwhelmingly a yes vote. Which I understand, and again, I'm not against anyone saying, "Hey, I want to sell it." I think everybody's in different circumstances. If I was in a 0% tax bracket or really low tax bracket, I may have felt differently about it. But just when you hold things for less than a year in the U.S., it's ordinary tax rate. So and then again, we're talking about soccer cards, so I'd rather not talk about taxes.
Right. But you have to weigh in on all of these factors, and that's something that, like I mentioned before, you brought it up in Discord, and at that point I was, wow, kind of was an eye-opening for me, even though the person on there also went into a little more detail explaining the workaround or something. I didn't really get it because I'm not an accountant or big into finance, but I guess in the end it did happen. What I didn't know, and this is the first time that I have something on Rally that actually sells, was the fact that even though there was an initial bid of 1.1, that there could be follow-up bids until, I guess, at which point does Rally accept, or accepted in this case, the 1.33 bid? Was it because, then the other person that we knew that was also bidding just, walked away? Is that, do you know the process, for those that don't know, including myself, how it usually works?
Yeah. So I talked to the CEO of Raleigh about this because I had pretty strong feelings, and they've actually been interested in potentially, partnering, selling part of my cards where I could still have control of the cards, but some people could, especially mostly around my Negro League collection, which I know isn't what people on the soccer thing are interested in, but because those are very rare, has the same stuff as a lot of the soccer cards, incredibly rare cards that a lot of people just can't get in their collections because the pops are so low. But so here's basically how it works. So they have an investment committee, and when you sign up to buy the shares, if you read all of these documents, which I'm sure nobody does, I happen to read these documents and clarified a bunch of things because that's my day job. Right. And I'm a registered investment advisor with the SEC, so I just need to be really careful about following rules and making sure that I understand them. So anyway, they have an investment committee that when they get an offer, it goes to the investment committee, and that committee actually, from a technical perspective, can act on the best interests of all the shareholder, however they deem them appropriate. And so the vote that we do is not binding. We could all vote yes, and they can decide no.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So it's that committee is what actually holds the power. Now, of course, the committee opens them up to criticism and potential lawsuits if they reject a reasonable offer that can be proved as market, but that's a sloppy process. But I think in general, if they can make decisions that align with what the shareholders generally want, that's an easier decision for them, right? But from a technical perspective, we as shareholders cede all of those rights to this investment committee that meets, and they look at, various things, recent comps in the market, the ROI and MOM, which is a multiple of money, which is, where they say, hey, we just made 3 times our money. And then they ultimately make a decision if those parameters are hit. Court had mentioned we partnered to make a joint bid for the card when it was trading at about,
you did mention that.
Yeah. 300,000. We bid like 500, and we said we'd even go up to 600, and they said no. And they never even put it to a vote, which irritated us, right?
How far back are we talking about? How long ago was this?
I want to say
less than a year, right?
Probably, about a year. Maybe. I mean, right after it went IPO, and then it started trading.
Okay.
So, and they traded very infrequently at the beginning. Like it traded, once a month or something like that.
Yeah.
wasn't how it was more recently. So anyway, they didn't put it to a vote. They said didn't hit their parameters, and then they wanted to hold, which was fine, and they recommended, hey, if you want more, buy it on the open market, which I ultimately bought another 10% on the open market over time, and then court decided that he was willing to go for this bigger price because he sold his other PSA 9, and that was fine, and I wasn't really in the market at more than $1 million to be a part of a card.
Sorry to interrupt you, but for whatever reason I have in the back of my mind, don't you personally own a PSA 9 also, or a lower grade?
And I own an 8.5.
Oh, an 8 point SGC or?
No, it's a PSA 8.5. So for me, and that was kind of the thing. It's like, am I in this as a collector or a investor? And the answer is both. Right? But much, much, much more on the collector side. And I said, okay, I was thinking, well, if I needed to put up $500,000, which is a lot of money for me, I would rather put that into things that I don't have in my collection instead of just having a piece of a PSA 9 when I already have a 8.5.
Now, in case you joined us late, and you obviously don't know what we might be talking about, but we're talking about the recent sale of the Pepe PSA 9 rookie, the Alifa Bolaget from Rally. And there were some discussions going over at Discord, and Al and I were just going over some of the things that basically need to be explained. And one of them, Al is going over the process, which I didn't know, that it was even the committee that basically makes the ultimate decision on whether something gets sold. So going back to that, so there was the initial 1.1 million. I mean, so I guess ultimately the one person that bought it seems to have been confirmed. That was the owner from or one of the original co-founders of Fitbit. It's been confirmed, right, Al?
I actually sent him a note on Instagram congratulating him if that was the case, and he hasn't responded to me. He follows me, so I don't have that 100%. I know a number of people have confirmed it. I haven't personally confirmed it, so it seems reasonable based on but
his prior purchases also in different sports, right? Because he goes for the GOATs on everything.
Yeah, and he sold his company for a couple $2 billion to Google, and he probably owned, who knows, I'm hypothesizing here, 20 to 30% of the company left. So he probably, I would guess, is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. So for him to spend $1 million on a top end card that likely doesn't have a lot of downside to it, it just makes sense if it's of interest to you, right?
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, if anything good comes out of this, obviously besides the profit that one made at this case, is that it will help bring the market to, we can never be, we got to be realists at this point. It might not get to what it was pretty much a year ago, because you remember it was February leading on all the way till May.
February was crazy last year. It was just stuff we'd never seen, and as fast as it went up, it came down, right? So, and I think it's okay, Paul. I like, sure. Like for you, I'm in for the long run. For many, many years, none of this stuff was appreciated or valued even close to where it is. So I think it's fine to have, a stabilization process. And it's actually great for collectors to not have to pay those year ago February prices. You can get in and add to your collections, pieces that you really wanted at discounts to those times, but also, potentially have some upside, because we've been up there and we've seen some of these.
And here's the thing. It's a good opportunity to also bring in new collectors, you know what I'm saying, into the sports. Because like you said, if things are so high, they'll be a little reluctant to get in. So at least the prices, the way they are, you get some real bargains right now. You see even some of the Messi and Ronaldo rookies going for crazy prices. So it is a foot in the door for these people to get in and then go into vintage cards like this one sold, It's just crazy. So
I would like to. I see one of these comments here that from Adam at Cleveland Soccer Cards. He said that the soccer market needs to grow slowly, and I always prefer slow, methodical, growth. And the way that I think we got the pandemic created a huge rush of people in the sports card industry in general, which created this huge spike of demand, which had a huge spike in prices. And then, some people get burned because they bought in at the wrong place, and that gives them a bad taste in their mouth. And then they get out of the hobby, or they're disenchanted, or they're unhappy. Yeah. And a hobby should be a place where you find joy and happiness and camaraderie and friendship. And I think all those things add value to it, just beyond the dollars and cents of, oh, I bought a card for 100 to 200. So, you really, I think that this cooling down, phase of the market, as well as, a more gradual increase slowly over time is really healthy for the hobby. And I don't know if you watch the state of the market video that Bill and I do every month, but if you look at the places where we swim, which is mostly, vintage, and hardcore vintage pre-war, I think we're seeing really healthy growth there because, we're getting a few collectors coming back. They start at modern usually, then they go to pre-modern, and then some people get interested in vintage, but it's just a few people coming in at a time, and they're learning about so many different players. So these players are just ticking up, and they're not crazy jumps, but it's like a healthy market development. Like one player that we started to talk about a couple years ago who has a fascinating story is Matthias Sindelar from Austria, the wonder team of the 1930s. And he has a very interesting case, not just because he's one of the best pre-war players, but also because the added drama of his death, which was, people do wonder if it was truly an accident that he died from carbon monoxide poisoning, or if he was murdered by the Nazi regime because he had retired from football when they wanted him to play for Germany, and he basically gave them the proverbial finger that said that he wasn't going to play for the Germans. And so there's these backstories that create interest in people, and then slowly over time, those cards 24 months ago were probably $100, and now you're routinely seeing them sell for $1,000 or $1,200. And that's because there's been this normal progression, but didn't go from 100 to 1,000 to 200. It went 100, 150, 200.
Progressive,
and it's progressive. And I think when you get slow increases in collectors, and collectors is a key. Actually, Andre talks a lot about this, about the markets that have a solid collector base are really the most solid markets, because people are always looking to fill out their collections regardless of price. So I think, I'm happy, really happy with where the market is. It's also fine for us to get some whales in that have crazy amounts of money that are willing to go for the really high end cards. That's great, good for us. But most of us don't play in those cards,
right?
So I still think it's great for us. We've still got so many things to be excited about. Champions League, World Cup, I'm just excited. I enjoy it today as much as I always have. And I notice our Discord keeps growing. The Vintage Soccer Facebook page keeps growing. I don't know how your page is doing, but so much interest, and that's really like good interest.
And that's I was going to touch on, because we got a good amount of people here, and a lot of them here. Certain people like Bill collect football. You mentioned, you have the YouTube segments, pretty much on a weekly basis, or at least you try to keep up with that. You also mentioned Andre. So, guys, we're talking with Elrey Collection. His real name is Jurgela, and he's probably the best teacher, the best professor you can have in the soccer collecting world. Yes, he is, especially when it comes to vintage. So we've mentioned Discord. There are two absolutely must channels for you to follow on Discord, and that is Vintage Soccer Cards and also Soccer Study. We happen to have Andre joining us here, and he loved your story that you just told us. So educate yourselves. I mean, I'm learning every day with stuff that I listen and read on these two great channels. So make sure that you join after we're done with this conversation. So Al, I don't know if there's any. I had a couple of things that I want to go over with you if you have some time. I don't know if you want to add in anything else about this particular sale. I mean, 1.33 million. So now we've kind of raised the bar. So we're looking now for 2 million. You know, and you want to talk about the 57. You know, the balas.
Sure. And I think somebody here. I think I saw it up. I didn't see the name. Was asking what the ultimate price was. I think it was like $35 or
okay, yeah. I see that Out the Attic Cards was asking that, and I was curious too because I tell you the truth, I haven't gone back to Rally to see what it ended up, but I kind of figured that would be based on the sales price. I kind of figured that it would be about 30 in the mid 30s. So
yeah, I mean, the one thing I don't like about Rally, which obviously they're in business to make money. Is the fees that they charge some pretty hefty commissions on the exit. They don't in the normal trade, but on the exit it ends up being pretty substantial from a percentage basis. So when you go into an investment and you have significant fees related to it, these transaction costs, it's like buying a house. Your house needs to increase 6% because that's the commission when you sell your house just to break even. So in this, it's actually significantly higher.
Wow.
And find the email from Rally on this, but yeah, it was like, I want to say $33 a share, and if you had bought in the IPO, it was $10 a share. So you did pretty well, and that's on a net basis.
That's right. It was 330%. That's right. Yep, that's what it was, 330%.
Yeah, so it's like $33. So so you just need to be aware of these things if you're just an investor or you're using some of these partial shares. But it's the same on, it's actually even worse to a certain extent on eBay and for low value cards or PWCC. If you buy a card for 100 and then you want to sell it, a few months later, you're going to have to sell it for 120 just to get your 100 back because PWCC is going to take, their 20% or eBay and PayPal. So, you just need to, which is why investing in cards is always, it's really speculative, and you need to be very, good at your decisions if your plan is to make a lot of money, because these transaction costs are much more than, you can buy a stock and sell a stock for virtually nothing.
Yeah, you can. Ameritrade, for example.
Yeah.
Listen, I mentioned the maybe we can talk about the 57 balls, which it's confirmed 57, right?
Yeah. I can send you. Well, you may have seen. I think Peter L on the Vintage Discord. He's got a great site that like documents all of them. And the good thing about the Brazilian sets is that every year they place the leading teams, the one that won the previous year, at the beginning of the albums.
Okay.
It becomes pretty easy to date them. Now, a lot of some albums, like just happen to have this one, so I'll show it here. This is a Bala Centro Gol by Jose Inocente. You can see down here.
Okay.
And they'll actually say in them, they'll actually have it printed. Well, you won't be able to see it here, I don't think, but in the actual album small print, they'll actually have when it was issued.
Okay,
right?
So that's good.
So not unlike actually the Portuguese albums, which I also have here, but I'll spare you from doing my stuff.
They typically start with Benfica all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, damn it. Yes. So they start alphabetically. Which is why you'll see a lot of the early Eusebio cards or Coluna cards having low numbers in the album. So I think that is pretty sure it's 1957, pre-World Cup issue, and it went for a little less than $500,000.
$500,000. But how do you think it did? Because I recall, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think on vintage soccer cards there was a poll going to see who believed that the card would exceed 500,000. I actually was one of the votes that would go under 500,000, but it came very, very close.
Yeah, you know, I mean, going into the
day, to the Saturday.
Yeah, to that Saturday, I think it was trading. It was like 250.
It was around that
or something. And I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, ugh, man. I mean, for that, you know, can I do it? And I'm kind of on a little bit of a hold after all my amount that I've been, spending, and we're like, man, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do that. We're having this conversation for hours before the thing. And then by the time it actually started going, it was like already into the mid 300s. And we're like, okay, we're not going to do that, especially because I actually am lucky enough to have one of that sticker. So,
right. And you have a PSA, right? A PSA?
Yeah, the only one that's rated.
PSA 2?
It's a 1.5.
PSA 1.5. Guys, if you don't know what Al is talking about, we're talking about the big sale that happened. It's almost 2 weeks now on one of the Golden Elite auctions. We're talking about basically a new Pele rookie that came into the scene. I think, Al, you already knew about it, but to the general public, it was kind of news for us.
It's only news because they finally got graded. So, you needed to show the complete album of the whole checklist. Because I went through the process of PSA. Mine is the only one graded there. I had to show all the, documentation, all the rosters of the team, so they could, identify that. Actually, in the case of the 57 Balas, it actually has, I had newspaper articles from where the company's address was, and then when they changed their address, actually in 58, so you could clearly see that the factory was there in 57. So actually I had 30 pages of documentation prior to even, buying the sticker, because it cost me a lot of money as well, to get it, documented. And then SGC had already documented this, but we have known about this card for a very long time. And I've seen different copies. There's in multiple different versions, point values for the redemption.
I saw that.
A yellow or a blue background. So it's very much been known as us collectors that it was out there, but nobody could ever get one graded, which is this other level of, validating cards.
Sure. And I saw, I guess it was on Discord also, that apparently the actual owner of this card that sold on Golden Elite auctions was an older lady. Can you tell us basically the story that you know about this lady, how she came about basically finding out that she's actually wealthy?
Yeah, well, so Beth, actually I know Beth. She actually runs a small auction house for toys and collectibles in Brazil. So she's quite familiar with, Brazilian albums, and she's friends and knows Mosier, which is a very famous ex-judge in Brazil, who's known to have the largest sticker collection in Brazil.
I saw the news article about that.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a UOL in Portuguese little, film documentation on him from when the World Cup was there in 2014. They did, the local television did a big thing about the sticker collectors, and that's the first time I saw the sticker. And then I tried to get in touch with them and have through, intermediaries in the last, 8 years, and establish a relationship. In fact, this album actually I got out of his collection. And so, there's some known people down there that really know the trade. So she knew what she had, right? And she got that, graded. And, I haven't talked to her since specifically, but I'm imagining she has to be thrilled with the results.
Well, and I'm sure you are too now, owning that 1.5. God only knows if and whenever you decide to put it up for sale, it's got to at least for the same amount, if not more. So good luck with that. But I'm sure it's going to be in your hands for some time.
I'm not. It's hard for me to sell anything, Paul.
I know.
So it's really, that one would probably be one of the last ones to go.
Oh.
So it's
only because it was so hard for you to get it.
Yeah, I looked for so many things for a long time. I don't know if you'd follow I think I posted it on Instagram. I recently got this Pepe card from.
I saw that. Absolutely. Congratulations. Yeah.
And you know, like, most people are going to be like, Pepe, you know, who the hell is, you know, Manuel Suarez, right? You know, it's like, why do you care? And why do you, well, I mean, I care for whatever reason, and I spent years looking for this, and to find a card issued in his playing days is a huge thing for me, right? And so I know nobody, you know, quote unquote, values it, right, and is willing to pay me $10,000. Very few people probably even know or care about him. So, but to me, it's really important, and so that's what collecting is about. And I feel the same way about the Pele card, even though that one will have a lot of street value. You know, the pain and suffering to identify it, negotiate it, and then, you know, send literally a wire transfer to Brazil without ever knowing. You know, I mean, literally, if you're not dealing with the right people, they can just keep your money and.
It's not PayPal.
No, it's not PayPal. There's no PayPal guarantee. You know, so it's nerve-wracking. It's crazy. But frankly, a lot of my Negro League collection as well is the same situation. Just trusting people in, you know, Venezuela or the Dominican Republic or Brazil or Argentina, and I haven't been significantly burned yet. Thank God. I think generally people are good and want to be people of their word, and that's been my experience around the world.
Oh, that's great. Listen, let me just go back here and read a couple of things or questions. There was somebody was asking, and I actually had something to say about the amount of cards that are coming into the market and what type of, how will that factor into things. But I follow US MNT Soccer Cards, I think it is. He did a great job the other day. I don't know if you saw it. He had a breakdown of the pop report on Messi, Mbappe, and so on, especially the rookie cards. And now I was pleasantly surprised that the numbers really haven't gone up that much, you know, for the last 6 months, when we expected all of the most of the backlogs from PSA to start, you know, basically getting those numbers together and figuring out whether, you know, there was a lot of backlog. But at least with soccer, I got to be honest, and for those GOATs of today, I don't see the numbers going up like crazy, at least not for the soccer card numbers.
Yeah, I think that it's all relative, because if you add no collectors and you add 20% more supply, then you're going to have a problem, right? Because you're going to have more supply and the same amount of demand. So I think, and we don't have a super clear picture of that demand side, but what I would say is I feel like the demand is going up.
Sure.
Generally. And, you know, certain cards, the supply is, you know, bumping. I'll take the 89 Messi, you know, Panini, card number 89. That one, for whatever reason, and I can't explain it because it should be the same as some of the other ones.
But it's not, yep.
You know, it just, more of them showed up. Same thing. Like, actually, Andre and I have talked a lot about the Lewandowski
the rookie, yeah.
Sticker. It's still a pop of 150, so that's a low pop for a GOAT player, right? So it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But when you compare to the portrait being 50, you know, and again, I the one thing that I really, really, you know, talk to people about and say, you know, be careful of trusting pop reports. True that maybe not, you know, hundreds of thousands of certain players are in soccer cards are in the PSA backlog, but the reality is for so long nobody graded anything soccer, so there's still a ton of them, you know, in desk drawers. Or
that's true, yeah.
And so that if the price comes down on the grading, you know, many more are going to show up. So, and I'd also be very nervous about going, you know, trying to buy, especially like a pre-modern card.
Oh yeah.
Where the top is like a PSA 7 and you're like, oh, it's the highest graded out of, 20 and it's PSA 7. Well, I think there's more risk in that than paying the highest graded premium for something like that than there is for, the Pele is a 9.5 going to show up or a PSA 10? Probably not, right? So I just tell people proceed with caution. In general, I'm not a big PSA 10, BGS 10 type guy. I think the premiums are huge. Half the time when I look at a 9 and a 10 next to one another,
tell the difference.
I can see the same. I mean, I've seen you do some of your too, and you're like, put the glasses on. We're like, what's going on? I mean, what's the difference? And I'm the same way. So
and this too.
I've got a big one that's like, this big. I'm looking at it and I'm like, what the hell did they see? So if I can't see it with my eye, I don't want to pay 2, 3, 5, 10 times more for the card just because I've got a 10. I mean, I don't care. I want to enjoy the card. So I also think that when we get to more AI grading and some of these cards again, I think it's just as likely a 10 turns into a 9.
Absolutely.
And then some 9s can turn into 10s, and there's a lot more to be gained on the 9s turning to 10. And if you buy a 10, there's only one way, and it's down.
And you know something? I think I've mentioned this before a couple of times. There's no one that can convince me that at this point and for the last few months that PSA is not yet already utilizing AI on their grading system. I do believe it, because some of the things I see, I mean, with the naked eye and with this and so on, angling at the proper angle with the lights, it just doesn't make any sense. So I think that's right in the middle of right now, even though they might not, admit to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know Kevin, who's the new, CEO president of PSA. I think he came from what is it, Gentleman, which was the AI.
Thing. That's exactly right. Yep.
He's going to be wanting to utilize that technology. I mean, it's his baby, right? So, whether they are and to what extent, I'm not sure, but it's coming, and that's why I generally try to guide people. Now, listen, the ones that get the highest price overturn and the highest return have been PSA 10. So I'm not going to try to tell people that's not the case because it is the case. But they're just not for me in my risk profile sitting in 2022, right now. I'd be more of a seller of PSA 10, of course, depending on the
card.
And if I get a PSA 10 from PSA, boy, am I excited, right? So
sure, yeah.
To minimize all PSA 10s, I just don't want to. I wouldn't be putting, and I don't put a lot of my personal money into that extra grade from 9 to 10.
I don't blame you. And I apologize for not having mentioned before the name of the person that, wanted or asked the question about the number of cards flooding the market right now, and that was Lamar 75. So I want to make sure I mentioned the name. Since we're talking also about grading, I'm sure you saw what happened now with eBay and what they call their authenticity guarantee, where any raw card that sells for a minimum, now they actually lowered it to $500 instead of the $750. That's going to be automatically be sent for grading with CSG, and I understand that's down in Florida. I mean, what do you think that's going to do to the market? I have my opinion, but I'll let you go first. What do you see? A good idea by eBay or not so much?
Hate it. I really hate it. I think that it
really.
Yeah, I think that in my time buying cards, I've probably gotten fakes 2 or 3 times out of 5,000 plus transactions. And so, to me, I just don't know if this is a real problem. Like, why are we solving it? It feels to me like there's a hidden business incentive. Like they're going to send it to CSG. They have a partnership with CSG. Ultimately, for nothing, it's going to cost, since they're already looking at the card, they have it. Oh, grade it for X dollars more. And it's a plan for CSG to get market share. It's a plan for eBay to get additional commissions. It slows things down. And then, when I've seen some of these things return, they're not even handling the cards right. They're not packaging them right. And then
I heard that.
they know about a 1930s French soccer card?
That's the problem.
No one
Absolutely.
know anything about
I
that. They
understand.
don't know the texture. So I think that it's, to do it as a optional service, that's great for people who want to know what they buy and want to feel good about it. But to automatically send everything, directly to them, it scares the hell out of me. And I don't like anybody forcing you to do anything, especially that.
I understand, but let me spin this around and say, okay, as a buyer, how do you see it? Because let me give you an example. And I'm speaking today with, I guess, the Blake 58 on Instagram. Let me give you an example of the Cristiano Ronaldo rookie sticker. There are still people to this day, and right now, today, selling the raws out there. Let's say this sticker will go for over $500. Most likely it will. This is greatly centered and so on. Now, there's some protection for the buyer in this case. When it comes to this, I mean, do you agree it's actually a good thing in this particular case?
I think, like Fadi was saying, I think it could be messy, because what happens is you send it to them. They got some person that's never seen it. They say, this looks and feels like a legitimate one. Yes, it's legitimate. That person gets it and says, yes, I bought a Ronaldo sticker. It looks in great shape. It's legitimate. They send it to PSA, and PSA says, this is a bunch of crap. And they send it back. And then the person's stuck with, PSA says it's a fake. eBay says it was good. And,
Right.
and PSG says it's good. eBay is not going to give you the refund. They're like, no, we say it's good. And then what are you going to do? Take everybody to court?
Very true.
I think you're going to be stuck in this limbo. I can see it being, messy. Not that it isn't messy now, but it's messy only if you make it messy. You send it to BGS, you send it to PSA, you do it yourself. You make that choice. I think we're going to institutionalize a whole level of messiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that CSG's almost going to have to rubber stamp the stalker stuff because they don't know it. And they're like, I can't say it's not legitimate, so it must be legitimate. And I think that's a dangerous.
I understand, yeah. And from what I heard too, I don't know if it was on Discord or something, but I guess some people over at CSG came over from BGS. Do you know anything? Somebody posted that.
Yeah. The key graders at CSG were the Beckett graders.
Okay, so that's not a good history when it comes at least to the CR7 sticker. So we'll have to see. I don't know if you saw also, I posted the other day, I have a 137 card submission sitting with Beckett from November 2020. That's how far back it is. It was an economy. And the other day I was surprised I went on, and even though they haven't really given me all the serial numbers listed on the, on my grading orders, I did see that I had submitted 4 CR7 rookie stickers. And at least 2 of them, it seems they have graders. So I'm very surprised. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they learned their lesson. I mean, even though, going back to, I've said this a million times, I actually offered them a raw rookie sticker of Ronaldo for them to use as a guide. Never heard back from them. But hopefully they've got this now to a point where they won't do this anymore. I mean, is that too much to expect from Beckett?
Yeah, I have no idea what to think. I mean, I as I said in one of my videos, can't even remember one. It's just been a huge disappointment to me. I mean, you remember you're a big Beckett grader. There's a time that a lot of people don't remember in the hobby now that Beckett holders were at a premium to PSA for the same card, same grade.
Mm-hmm.
For pretty much anything that was from the 90s on, I'd say, Beckett was the big dog. And PSA was more set collectors and, higher volume stuff. But, if you had a nice modern card, you wanted it in a Beckett holder. Yeah. And now it's just, it's depressing to see, this disconnect between PSA and Beckett right now. And it's
I think we lost the sound on you. We lost the sound on you. Al, can you hear me? Al, we lost the sound. No sound. We lost the sound.
Huh?
Oh, now we.
Oh,
we
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that the Beckett's been huge disappointment. You know, they don't communicate. Their pop report sucks. The website sucks. You know, we have no idea who's doing it. The inconsistencies, the errors, the lack of responsibility. It's just, it's really.
I mean, at this point, do we give them the benefit of the doubt? I mean, going forward, actually, not for what happened in the past, but going forward, the fact that they seem to be starting to grade these again, hopefully they did some in-house cleanup, and going forward, this is not going to happen again. I have my fingers crossed, but for them to make the decision, because they know there would be a lot of pushback, at least from us soccer collectors, if they screw this up again. I mean, I can't see it happening.
I would feel better, Paul, if they actually issued like a letter saying, "Listen, guys, we're sorry. We understand this happened, and this is about it." I think just because they start grading again, we assume they figure it out. Well, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt yet. But I would just feel better if they came clean and said, "We messed up. Hey, sorry guys, and this is what we're going to do about those, and this is what we're doing going forward." I think that would make me feel a lot better. But Beckett hasn't communicated anything about anything at all, right?
If anything, they double down, basically, say, "No, we know what we're doing. We contacted Panini. This, these are all good."
It's like what they did. Wasn't that them on the Holland sticker as well for the reprint and stuff? And
the two or three different editions.
I just, I'll still submit with SGC. I just sent a submission there. I submit with PSA. I'm just not submitting anything with Beckett for now. Maybe that'll change. I think a change of leadership and strategy, because the brand is salvageable. It's still a great brand. It's just gotten a little old and moldy. It's like at some point you go back. I kind of equate this brand to like, Folgers coffee. In the 1980s, Folgers coffee had like 80% market share. Now it's hard to find Folgers, right? And if you would have told any of us at that point, well, we're probably the only two on this call that remember Folgers.
How about Sanka? You remember Sanka?
Okay. All right. Good. Apple House, and guess what? They got run over.
Bustelo.
Yeah. So in the end, I think that, there's some, if they change, there's some good potential, but the barrier to,
you're going to sit back.
It's a high standard, and I'm not going to
take a chance with them. Yeah. Well, in my defense, the only reason why I have this coming is because, again, it's been there since 2020, since all of this happened. So I haven't submitted anything else with them, even though I had an opportunity to actually do a submission at lower price. But I said, no thanks. I'll pass. I've been liking SGC, and there you go. The transparency there. I don't know what type. I forget what card it was the other day that it came. They became aware that they actually graded a fake on SGC, and they came out. They posted a video on Instagram. I forget what card it was or what sport. So I mean, yeah, they're admitting they made a mistake, but they're doing something about it. You know what I'm saying? Now, being quiet like Beckett has done for the last almost year, it's not good business for them.
No, and it's bad for us that have. I mean, I don't have a ton, in fairness, but I have a lot. I probably have hundreds of BGS slots, and I just feel like they've abandoned me. And I'm not a BGS main collector. Most of my stuff is SGC, followed by PSA, and Beckett's a different one. But all of my valuable money cards from modern, which is not that much, are in BGS holders, and I feel abandoned. So if I was a real BGS diehard, I would just be feeling devastated.
That's how I feel, especially with my you saw the price going down dramatically on the rookie stickers, and I got a good amount of them. Andre from Soccer Study, which, by the way, guys, don't forget, Soccer Study and Vintage Soccer Cards are two channels that are a must follow on Discord. You have Al going there pretty much every day. He's a frequent visitor there. Get a lot of information that he shares with us. So Andre is saying that it was a Pokemon card, actually, the Pokemon Top Sun card. But they came out immediately. I thought it was the same day, you know, and they were able to actually contact, from what I recall, they contacted the submitter and were getting the card back to them to, you know, to make things right. So, yeah, one can hope that Beckett would learn, you know, from SGC, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
No, and you know, the other thing that I say, there's a lot of graded PSA, BGS, SGC bashing mistakes they made. But, I mean, I have tried to point out in a number of cases, look, I don't have a problem with them making mistakes. Every business makes mistakes. Mm-hmm. I run a number of businesses. You cannot be 100% perfect in everything you do every day, right?
We're human. They're human.
So I don't mind the mistakes. I mean, some mistakes are worse than others, right? But what I really mind is how you respond to the mistakes. And that's where you define who you want to be as a business. And that's where I think Beckett has failed. PSA has done well, not great, and SGC has also had good moments and not so good moments. So I think that in general, right now, if I had to guess, I'd say PSA is probably doing slightly the best, and SGC isn't that far behind. And then BGS is in a whole other zip code in terms of what you expect. And
yeah. Yeah. Andre also is mentioning, and I'm hearing things about this too, that going back to eBay's authenticity guarantee that they have with CSG, he's saying that in less than a year that he's willing to bet that eBay will grade cards with CSG. I think that's, that's the next step, it has to be.
You started off, and then you get all that volume to move it in there, and then there's a case where they're backed by Blackstone, and so there's a case they fold into eBay.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and then you get you can do just like what eBay has been thinking about doing, creating a massive vault similar to PwC and Golden, and you have all this. You're almost e-trading these commodities, and then they're finding other ways to charge you and make money. I mean, eBay's in it to be a marketplace, and I see that. I see this evolving, and it's a much bigger partnership. eBay, Blackstone, and all these billions of dollars that are on the sidelines.
I do too. Yeah, you mentioned the vault. Obviously eBay has announced that most likely. I don't know if they have a timeline yet for their vault, but it's definitely coming too. So it'll be interesting to see.
And the one who I wouldn't be surprised if they did it now, maybe slightly different because Golden is also part of the same group that Nat Turner's running, but it could, PSA is the logical source to have a vault because then you don't have to ship the cards. Great.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
So I don't know why PSA.
Have you heard rumors, or is this something that
something in my mind? I'm like, if I was
makes sense.
I'd have the best way. I'd be the best person to have a vault because it doesn't need to ever leave my facility.
Yeah. Good point. I think you mentioned that though on Discord at some point, didn't you?
Because to me it's so obvious that now hands they have the pop reports, now they have all the data, so they know what
card ladder.
You can do, you've got the registry. You've got, they have something that nobody else has, which is, all of it together. They're grading it. They have, the registry. They have the market data. And right now you have to go to 3 or 4 different places to get it. They have it all in one. You add the vault and it just becomes a massive marketplace. You keep it off eBay and you're getting the eBay commissions. And you have an amazing business, and you ship your cards off to PSA, and then you manage them electronically. And if you ever want one back, they ship it to you. In the meantime, you can sell it, you can store it. It seems to make all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, the hard work has already been done. Now it's just basically getting that together. Knowing that Turner or how successful he's been over the years, I'm pretty sure that it's not on the back of his mind. He's probably up ahead because you would be smart enough to do that. So I do think you mentioned that on Discord looking back, in the last couple of days. So yeah. Let's just check only because I'm going to try to keep this also under an hour because this time, because we always go overboard. I want others to actually be able to witness all this information that you.
Sure. Yeah.
Anything that you read here that, this ATX Collector was mentioning, how the Panini treble cards they've been up to I don't know if you've been following the treble number cards.
I saw
great work by Andre.
I saw Andre's video, and then I imagine they have been popping a little bit, but they obviously have gone even more crazy since Andre did his video.
And Al, in fairness to Soccer Study, that's his name on Instagram here and also on Discord. Some people have given a little pushback on him because sometimes they say that he might be talking about particular cards that he has, but I mean, for a fact, and we know this, that he's been buying. These trebles are something that are so hard to find, and as you probably have heard, most of them probably in the possession of the Asian market. But that video that he did, which is on YouTube, guys, by the way, Soccer Study, that he did when he compared the treble cards, the numbered cards, to the PMGs, the precious metal gems that are so popular within the basketball collecting world. I mean, it was right on. I mean, I don't know how can anyone say that the Panini trebles are not the PMGs of soccer.
Yeah, it's not my market, so I learned when
right.
To Andre, I don't normally play in that. I buy things that I like the look of, and certainly when I looked at those, I'm like, oh, those are pretty cool. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they went well. I mean, they have all the things that PMGs have. So, I certainly like them, and I'm not surprised that they're doing well. They seem to deserve to be doing, well. And I don't know, gosh, to be honest with you, it's been a while since I've looked at anything like post 2014 in terms of prices. So it's really kind of a market that I don't play in, but certainly I think, the checklist in terms of all the greats and all the different colors and there's many different parallels. So I thought that was a really good video that Andre put out in terms of, the PMGs. Now, and I think Andre would be the very first one to tell you too, is like, don't just buy the hype, right? Because if you get, just like we're talking about supply and demand, if 300 people watch the video and they're all going after the only CR7 colored treble, it's likely to go for a high price. And if you come back to it in 3 months and 6 months, it may not be at that same price. It may have gone up, but it may also have gone down. So sure. I think one thing that I've learned, and I think Andre had learned it as well, is especially when we drop some videos, and it's impossible not to create some interest if you're talking about a card, right? Of
course.
There's always this thing about, okay, well, you're pumping your collection. Well, I'm talking about a card. If you like it, then that creates demand. And if I have 2,000 followers, if 50 people are interested in it today that weren't interested in it yesterday, it's going to have an impact, right? So some of it's unavoidable, but don't just listen to whatever Andre says or whatever I say. Just go after it. I mean, really kind of do your research, marinate, because I have noticed I drop a video on a player, those players disappear from eBay for 2 or 3 weeks. And then, but if you go back 2 or 3 months after I drop a video, there's more, those cards back on there, and they're not nearly as expensive. So, I just talk from my own stuff. I don't like to influence the market because we are small channels, so to speak. But the reality is, it's a small market too. So,
sure, Yeah, Mitchell's Cards is also mentioning that Doug Jones, which we know well, on the podcast that mentioned 6 months ago that PMGs. I did not know that. So basically, he did also the comparison, or he mentioned that the Panini trebles were the PMGs of soccer. I'm asking that to Mitchell's Cards. And funny thing, I most recently, I've been going through some of my stack of cards that I just put away, and I did find a good amount of Panini Troubles. Back then, I probably bought like into maybe 2 or 3 cases, and I really liked them at the time. And I like the simplicity of the card itself. It caught my eye, and I was back then. I thought, why aren't people talking much about these? But you know, it took a few years because this is 2018, I believe. It took a few years, including the ones where Panini, for the first time that I know of, Panini America did, they actually had the World Cup sticker of some of the, you know, Messi and Ronaldo and so on.
I mean, those have been on my want list for a while, where they had the vintage, well, vintage-esque stickers with the blue borders around that are signed. Like I've wanted, you know, those for a while, and just never found one at the price that I was willing to pay. So
I got 2. I got a Ronaldo and Messi on the way to PSA for grading on that the on sticker card.
Yeah.
Auto, so we'll see.
All right. So people,
it was going to be a surprise when I did. It was going to be a surprise when I figured, since you're mentioning them, and there's not that many graded. Very, very few. I'm after an R9. R9ers are impossible to find for those.
Yeah. And even, I mean, the Neymar, I've only seen a couple as well. So, yeah, I just really, yeah, I definitely will want to pick those up at some point. But, you know, this is a fun thing about collecting. There's always something else to keep looking for. And, you know, those are just going to be awesome, though.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and the ATX Collectibles is also mentioning. I did watch that video from that Calcio YouTuber. He also did a show on Travels in early December. I saw that too. It's pretty interesting. I like the setting. I think he owns his own little coffee shop / deli or something, and that's where he does his videos.
No way.
I think the Italian guy. Yeah. Calcio something. Calcio cards. And it's very, very well spoken too. But he's a business owner and just happens to love soccer cards and does these videos. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything else before we go, because again, we gotta be fair and
or otherwise we can't post it. So no, it's always great to talk, Paul. It's been a while, but glad to hear you're doing well. Hey, I picked up your you know, CR7 box, Mega Cracks box, and the 2 following boxes in golden. So
yep.
So that was, I'm pretty excited to get those. Always super happy to get stuff that came out of your collection. And
are you hearing me, Al? Can you hear me now still or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a thing that says that I've been locked out. So I don't know if it's been locked out from what. I don't know. It might be something else. So hopefully we'll still have this video. Yeah, that auction didn't go as well for me, but I'm happy at least one of it went you know, to a good home, and you know, hopefully you enjoy. I'm sure you're going to keep it.
Yeah, I can't do like you do. You just have such amazing guts. I love to see that. Plus, you have a little more for you, and I love to see you're so casual when you like open. I'm like, oh my Lord. You know?
That's what some people say. But as you know, over the years, I've opened up a lot of those boxes. So, I mean, I could understand if it would be like my first or second box. Yeah, but I did have and pulled a good number of Ronaldo's over the years. So, yeah, the excitement's kind of gone by now, but I understand you guys thinking that. Al, let's run.
See you, Paul.
Thanks once again. Appreciate it.
Obrigado.
Take care now, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.